Welcome back to the Talking Hedge. I'm Josh Kincaid, and this is your Cannabis Business Podcast. We are here live at Headset. I'm here with Liz, and we're going to go over 420 data as we approach 420, the biggest cannabis holiday out there. We're going to dive into these reports and see what kind of fun stuff we come up with. Commercial history of 420, who's buying what on the biggest day of the year. And so just jumping right into it, there's a sales bump on 420 that's an incontrovertible fact. The day has become the world's unofficial celebration of cannabis, and data shows that consumers are buying plenty of cannabis to which to celebrate. As it turns out, the day does have plenty of significant effects on the popularity of certain products. Cannabis, unsurprisingly, see a huge boost. More traditionally, medicinal products don't get as much of a bump, which is to be expected given the day's festive atmosphere. But perhaps most intriguing is the fact that the average basket amount isn't too significantly higher than on other days in the spring season. So this suggests that it's a very real 420 sales bump is actually due to the influx of one-off or first-time buyers. So is that still consistent? Are you still kind of seeing that data to be true?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's necessarily just first-time buyers, but definitely what we see is a whole lot of extra baskets on those days. So whether it's people that are, fairly habitual users that come in often, they're adding a trip that month. Maybe they usually shop every week, and in April we'll see 5 trips instead of 4. Or whether it's someone that's maybe a more infrequent user coming and making a special trip for it. What we see, I think this year we did see a little bit of when I say this year, our report that we just released for 2018, I think we do see a little bit of price increases, people buying nicer things. But definitely I think most of that sales bump that we're talking about is driven by more people coming into the store.
And so before we get into this year, we're going to kind of start maybe with some data from 2015 and then move chronologically forward. Since this is the first year that 420 has fallen on a Saturday with legalization, it's going to be a whole lot more interesting. But going all the way back, we saw probably one of the biggest sales increases on 420 compared to similar weekdays, being that of pre-rolls. In 2015, we saw over 250% increase in sales, and then that dropped down to almost 200% in 2016. And maybe that was a matter of convenience, maybe that was a matter of what people felt comfortable with. And moving forward to more currently, we're kind of seeing people wanting to get higher, and that's in the form of edibles and beverages and infused joints.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so are you expecting that trend this year even more so with cannabis and higher dose products? So the conclusion with 2017's report is that 420 sales boost isn't going away anytime soon. So the market is seeing more new cannabis consumers who are probably less familiar with the day's connotations. It's already become well established with the cannabis industry Black Friday. It's interesting to note that there hasn't been a single 420 on a weekend yet. So savvy retailers can use 420 to capitalize on adventurous and occasionally lavish spirit, tailoring their promotions to promote new products and splurging a little. Either way, this sales boost from 420 is significant across the board, giving everyone involved plenty to celebrate. And so what will people buy on 420? There's predictions based on data from 3 years of the big day. We'll get into that right now.
No waiting. Right now, I'm diving right in. I'm ready for it, man.
Let's do this.
Yeah, let's do this.
So you had mentioned Gen Z, but we're going to talk about millennials because Gen Z was the first time last year that you were able to get some data, but we've had a couple years with millennials.
Totally, yeah.
Who are typically frequent purchasers but not big spenders. They open their pocketbook a little bit wider on 420. Headsets looked at specific products which do well on 420, and it's heavily weighed towards single-serving items, as you might expect, although not always the size you'd think. So Headsets learned that the loyalty programs play a role in 420 sales, which should be useful information for anyone who works in retail. And most interestingly, Headsets looked at pricing and discounts for 420 and noticed that people still buy a lot of cannabis even if it's not deeply discounted. The data shows that consumers' participation in the holidays seems to be driven more by enthusiasm for cannabis and the legalization movement than bargain hunting, which speaks to the unique nature of cannabis consumer base.
Yeah.
So you were kind of mentioning you were really excited just to get out there and try it. Are you more influenced by that ability to just kind of try new things, or are you going to be driven more by discounts?
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably be driven more by, to me it seems like a holiday, and my personal preference would be, I can buy cheap stuff any day of the year. I wouldn't want to forfeit, the ability to get like something cool and interesting that day to save a few dollars. But there's definitely people that see those, really cheaply priced ounces and just, take as much as the law allows.
This guy right here, be buying that $30 ounce tomorrow on Saturday.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of people that treat it that way and think, hell yeah, I'm going to fill up the pantry.
Right?
Yeah.
And we're going to get to that too, because I guess there's a post 420 report that we're going to get to in just a couple minutes, and it kind of dives into that hangover effect, which is legit.
Yeah, sales hangover, right? Yeah, you're going to end up with a pound by the end of the day, man.
So there's some trends, obviously. In 2015, 2016, pre-roll saw the biggest leap in sales on 420, and that's come down a little bit. Beverages, concentrates, and vape pens are all on the rise, probably because they're stronger. So considering that consumers are no longer automatically associating cannabis with smoking a joint, it makes sense that they might choose to celebrate with some more esoteric products. And your opinion on that, do you think that's more about trying to get higher, or is it an evolution away from pre-rolls?
Yeah. So I think aside from even pre-rolls, we've seen that. There's growth across every single category every year. Every category's up, but definitely inhalables are becoming less and less the major player. So in 2018, as the year closed, that was the first year that we saw flower be under 50% of the market sales. In prior years, we've seen it be as high as 3/4 of the market. And so it is starting to move away. I think a lot of that is newer consumers coming into the market that maybe want a slightly different experience. But I do think that flower and pre-rolls and the inhalables will probably always do quite well.
Yeah, Cannabis seems to be that quintessential party item.
That's a good Instagram shot. It doesn't matter if you like edibles. That's not a cool Instagram shot, but damn, those Cannabis are.
Right. That's a good point. Yeah, social media does play a pretty big role in people's decisions. That's a really good point.
Yeah.
So to that, nothing says celebration like a Cannabis.
Yeah.
So while the most popular product on 420 are mostly flower, pre-rolls, and edibles, certain products enjoy a moment in the holiday limelight. In 2017, the Cannabis segment saw an 835% sales boost over a normal weekday. While Cannabis are probably the most commonly purchased pre-roll that day, it's safe to say that the celebratory atmosphere convinced by more than a few folks to shell out $420 for Gold Leaf Garden's homogeneous hand-rolled cannabis cigar. The next big boost is going to be lip balms and THC concentrates, all which fit in the category.
Yeah, lip balms was an interesting one.
Yeah,
it's kind of interesting. I think what we see is a lot of different people being in there that day. And so what it is a lot of people are coming in already to buy something. And with all of the merchandising that you can do, I think a lot of people just see I didn't really spend much time looking around. I usually just buy what I'm used to. I'm here anyway for something new and interesting. Let me peruse the store. Let me spend a little bit of time in here. It's holidays. Let's embrace this and hang out for a minute.
The basket analysis from 2015 or 2016 really had topicals and tinctures as one of the last items that you kind of randomly pick up.
Yeah.
And yet fast forward 3 years and on 420 specifically, it's really kind of done a 180 where people are grabbing those things that maybe they haven't.
Yeah, topicals don't usually see a boost, and even in 2018, we didn't see a massive boost in topicals, but those lip balms did do kind of well. I'm wondering if someone had I'm not certain, but maybe someone had a branded product that was specifically for that, or maybe, trends can be influenced by a handful of stores, doing really great merchandising, and it could be a handful of stores just thought, here's a nice little inexpensive thing that's a pretty good upsell to bring our basket sizes up during that time. It's a great time to upsell if that's what you're trying to bring your sales up.
So, mixed strain pre-rolls had the largest increase of any segment, implying that they were a frequent 420 add-on purchase. It's no shocker, since non-strain specific pre-rolls are often the low cost to begin with and had the highest average discount rate of any pre-roll segment at a hefty 36%. So the holiday apparently has presented shoppers with a good opportunity to try live resin, which has been one of the fastest growing concentrate varieties over the last year. So pre-roll mixed strains 123% penetration growth on 420 alone.
Yeah. So they were in over twice as many baskets as they're normally in. And basket penetration is just a really great way to think about how many people your product is getting into the hands of, especially when we think about pre-rolls where it's a really low dollar value. I think people see, it was only 8% of sales, it's not a big category, but it's in a really big portion of baskets. It's just because they're cheaper, they're smaller. And so one of the great things about using headset data is you can kind of start to feel all these metrics and really get an idea of what is happening during that time. And those two metrics juxtaposed next to each other, I think, are very important.
The infused pre-roll has gained a lot of market share in all 4 states, and it's taking away non-infused pre-roll market share. Is that the convenience factor is obvious? And I would assume that it's because people want something that's stronger. Does the data show that as well?
Yeah, it's tough to say from looking at our data. Again, like what people want, why they're doing it we get very inferential there. But definitely, I think when you look at those products in general, they have higher THC percentages because they're infused.
And the data infers that just based on this switch to edibles and beverages. I would assume that's because of the higher concentrations and people want to get higher on that day.
I think it can be. I think also what you see is, it's, as this becomes more mainstream, what could be happening is, I want to celebrate by smoking. I have friends that, not maybe their thing. And so I say, why don't you come over? I'll get some edibles for you. It doesn't feel maybe quite the same. And it's maybe a nice way for them to start their cannabis journey. And so I think one of the reasons I'm inferring that's true is because what we often see with edible purchases is there is flour or pre-rolls in the basket. So it could be just a way, maybe it's a partner, a spouse, a friend, that you're trying to enjoy this same day with them, have a similar experience, but they just don't feel like smoking.
I want to thank my guest, Liz Connor, Director of Analytics at Headset. Liz, thank you so much for spending time with us today.
So with that, we're going to roll this one up. I'm Josh Kincaid. This is Talking Hedge, your cannabis business podcast. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or don't. And I'm out.
Bye.